You see the headlines, right? The economy's booming, unemployment is low, the stock market's on fire. But then, you look at your own bank account, and it feels like you're living in a completely different world. If you've ever felt like you're working harder than ever but just can't seem to get ahead, listen, you are not crazy. You're just normal. And today, we're going to break down exactly why the new normal feels so broke.
So, let's just dive right into the big question. Why is there this massive gap between what the news tells us about the economy and the actual reality in our wallets? We're told things are great, but for millions of us, it feels like we're just treading water or maybe even sinking. So what is really going on here?
You know, this one number, it explains everything. 67%. That's the percentage of Americans right now living paycheck to paycheck. We're talking 2/3 of the country. And this isn't just about people earning minimum wage. No, this includes folks making six figures. We're talking lawyers, engineers, managers, all caught in the exact same cycle. This isn't some personal failure. It has become the new American normal.
And that feeling of being trapped, it's real, because the trap itself is real. Think of it like an invisible prison, one that's been carefully built all around us to keep us financially stuck. The bars aren't made of steel. They're made of things like monthly payments, social pressure, and systems that are literally designed to drain your wealth. So today, we're going to find those bars together.
Okay, first up, let's look at the actual architecture of this prison. These are the external systemic traps. They're all designed to pull money from your pocket before you even get a chance to build anything. They're dressed up to look like convenience, but really, they're cages. The first, and maybe the most common bar of this prison, is the monthly payment trap. I mean, think about it. Nobody walks into a car dealership asking for the total price anymore, do they? They ask, what's my monthly gonna be? Your brain sees a number like $680 and thinks, yeah, I can swing that. But it conveniently forgets about the 72 months of payments, the interest, and the fact that you're about to pay $47,000 for something that's losing value every single day. The entire consumer economy is built on this one little psychological trick. And now we've got the high-tech version of this trap. Buy now, pay later. It's designed to feel totally harmless. You see, pay in 4 on a $100 pair of shoes, and you think, sure, why not? But then you do it again for your groceries, and then again for some concert tickets. Before you know it, you're trying to juggle a dozen different payment plans with different due dates. You miss just one, and bam, the fees hit. Now you're taking out a new little loan just to pay off the old ones. It's a system called loan stacking, and it's basically financial quicksand disguised as a convenience. But the biggest trap of them all? Well, it's often the American dream itself. You see a house listed for $250,000, and the mortgage calculator tells you the payment is going to be around $1,550 a month. You think, affordable, right? Wrong. The mortgage payment is just the entry fee. I mean, just look at this breakdown. Once you start adding in property taxes, insurance, PMI, and what you should actually be saving for maintenance, that affordable payment has suddenly shot up by almost $1,000. And here's the real gut punch. The annual total. The average homeowner spends an extra $21,400 a year on these hidden costs. That's another $1,783 every single month, on top of your mortgage. It's the roof that starts leaking, the AC unit that breaks in July, the property taxes that just keep going up. Your house isn't just an asset, it's a part-time job that pays you in repair bills. So we've seen the bars of the prison, but a prison only works if the doors are locked, right? And in this financial prison, the lock isn't on the outside, it's in your mind. These are the psychological traps that convince us to stay right where we are, even when the door is technically unlocked.
It really boils down to two fundamental mindsets, and they act as the lock. The cheap mindset is all about fear. It asks just one question: how much does this cost? But the wealthy mindset, it's strategic. It asks, what's the return on this investment? See, a cheap mindset buys the $20 boots and has to replace them every year. A wealthy mindset spends $200 on boots that'll last a decade. It's about seeing the bigger picture.
This quote just captures the problem perfectly. This scarcity mindset creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. You won't spend $500 on a course that could boost your salary by $10,000 because you're terrified of letting go of that $500. You'll drive clear across town to save 10 cents a gallon on gas, burning more in time and fuel than you ever actually saved. Your fear of losing a little bit paralyzes you from making strategic gains that could change everything.
So how do you break it? Well, it starts with making some intentional shifts. You invest in skills that raise your earning potential. You spend money now on preventative maintenance for your car or your health to avoid a massive catastrophic bill later.
And please, for the love of all that is holy, stop wasting mental energy debating between the $2 can of beans and the $2.10 one. But the biggest shift, it's in your language. Stop saying, I can't afford it. Start saying, I'm choosing not to spend on that. One phrase makes you a victim. The other makes you the CEO of your own life.
Okay, we've identified the prison bars, and we've found the psychological lock. So now, let's talk about the escape plan. And I gotta be honest with you, this is not a sprint. It is a long, slow, and frankly, often boring grind. There are no get-rich-quick hacks here. There's just the relentless, undeniable physics of building wealth.
This escape is powered by one thing and one thing only: the snowball effect. The best way to think about it is like you're pushing a giant boulder up a mountain. The first few hundred feet, it's agony. You're doing 100% of the work, and the thing barely moves. That's what the beginning of investing feels like. It feels pointless. But then you hit a tipping point, and that boulder, it starts to roll all on its own.
This timeline just illustrates the physics of wealth perfectly. For the average person, getting your first $100,000 saved and invested, it takes about 8 years. That is the brutal uphill push. But look at what happens next. The second 100,000 takes only 5 years. The third, just 3.5. The math has completely flipped. Your money is now doing more of the work than you are. This is why quitting in those first few years is so devastating. You're abandoning the boulder right before it starts to roll downhill. Here's another way to visualize it. In the early years, pretty much all of your portfolio's growth is coming from you, just shoveling money into it. The market returns are just this tiny little sliver. But you fast forward 20 years and the roles have completely reversed. Your contributions are now just a small part of the growth. The market's compounding effect is doing all the heavy lifting. You just have to survive the boring part to get there. And all of this leads to the single most important moment in your entire financial life. It's called the crossover point. This is the day your investments earn more in a year than you did at your 9-to-5 job. This is the moment your financial future is no longer tied exclusively to your ability to trade your time for a paycheck. You might still work, sure, but you no longer have to. And that is the definition of freedom.
All right, we've seen the prison, we've found the key to the lock, and we've mapped out the long escape route. So it all comes down to one final, simple choice that you have to make. Not just once, but every single day. It all boils down to this one core idea. Forget the lattes. Seriously. The system wants you obsessing over $5 coffees so that you don't notice the $700 car payment or the house that's secretly draining your future. Real progress comes from focusing on the big wins and widening the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap, that is your weapon. That gap is what will buy your freedom.
So here it is, the whole escape plan. First, you have to see the bars. You've got to recognize these traps for what they really are. Second, you unlock your mind by shifting from that fear-based, cheap mindset to a strategic, wealthy one. And third, you start the long, slow walk to freedom. You build your gap, and you let the relentless, beautiful math of compounding do its thing.
And in the end, it really just comes down to this one question. Let's be real. Being broke is hard. The stress, the anxiety, the constant worry, it's exhausting. But you know what? Building wealth is also hard. It takes discipline, patience, and the courage to go against the grain. Both paths are difficult. The only real choice you have is which hard you're going to choose. The one that keeps you trapped or the one that eventually sets you free.